sell fire in hell. I am a hustler, baby. I sell water to a well. I was born to get cake, move on and switch states.
All right, here we are on podcast number 2, everyone. So I'm sitting here with a good friend of mine. Nave's name is Dave.
I got a great Nave, too.
Got a great Nave.
Naval games on point.
Dave Mckenna. So Dave is a salesman at what's the company? Kronos?
Kronos with a K, not with a CH.
Yeah, so brought Dave on, because he's a great guy, funny guy, very entertaining.
I wouldn't say that, but, you know.
Well, I think you are. And also because he's really smart. He's got a lot to say about all sorts of topics, but specifically sales. And the reason I wanted to talk about sales today is because of how vitally important it is, not just in business for all you business people out there, but also in life, because everything boils down to sales in some way or another. And we want to kind of talk about that. And so Dave, anyway, welcome to the podcast. Ugh, can't speak today. I'm glad you're here, man.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, I guess I just want to open this up with saying that, you know, I'm not the only professional salesman in this room. We have Justin Timlin, who somehow managed to, in 2 days, get our landlord to not only revamp the whole entire house, but not even really increase the rent on us, which is something that, you know, we've gone kind of down to the wire. It's almost August, and we need to live somewhere by September, and so he kind of sold our landlord into, you know, basically giving us a golden palace for the same exact amount of rent. So, you know, I am a salesman by definition, but, you know, Justin's an entrepreneur, so he kind of has to do a little bit of everything.
Well, thank you for that. Yeah, I mean, when you have leverage, you know, it's like, hey, go find someone else in a month, or we'll live here, but make it nice. Anyway.
He makes it sound really easy, but, you know.
Well, that's kind of what I wanted to talk to you about, is people think that sales is almost an inherent gift. Like, you see people that are very charismatic, that are good at talking with people, that have people skills, right? That we think, you know, oh man, that person's charming or, you know, charismatic. But it's actually kind of a learned skill, or at least I think it is, that you can learn to be good at those soft skills, and they help you out in all parts of life, right? Like, selling is not just about selling, you know, a light bulb to someone. It's about selling, you know, your a way about you, right? It's selling your brand. Like, if you go out to a bar and hit on a girl, you're just selling yourself to that girl, right? You're like, hey, like, how awesome am I? You want, you know, to go home with this, right? Like, right. That's a sale itself,
right?
You know, so it's interesting. I'm kind of fascinated by sales for those reasons, about how it just kind of touches everything in our lives and how important it is. And as a salesman, I would just, you know, get, like, what is your philosophy on that, right? Like, what do you think about it?
So, I mean, we all know the people amongst us that are just natural salesmen. It's pretty obvious out of the group who is the person that is, you know, personable and can do it just based on, you know, how they are as a person, as an extrovert. But, you know, you're right in that it is a skill that you can develop and hone. And today's salesman is much different than, you know, the salesman of the past. And that's something a lot of people don't realize. They might watch the movie, what is that movie with Alec Baldwin?
Glengarry Glen Ross.
Yeah. So, you know, that is kind of what a lot of people have, you know, perceived as the salesperson, Alec Baldwin going in and dangling his brass balls in front of the guys and totally emasculating them because they can't force a deal on their potential clients. But that's something that just, there's too much information out there for prospects, and if you're not really giving them what they what can help them out, what will make their business better, they're going to know that and they're going to shut you down. So it's really more of a process of getting them information, less of telling them what they need, and more of, I would say, kind of helping them, guiding their hand through the process of
right.
A sales cycle.
It's less of hard selling people these days. Is that what you'd say? It's more of a, it's not that used car salesman stuff where it's like, buy now or this thing's gonna go. It's like, no, you know what, I'm actually kind of here to help you with this. Like, I'm coming from an organic place of trying to do good for you. Right.
It's not trying to sell a Lamborghini to grandma because it's the most expensive car on the lot, and it's more of, okay, so you're a middle-aged man who needs to get to and from work. These are your issues. You need good gas mileage. You need a car that's this many years old. So I'm going to show you exactly what that is, and all I'm trying to do is help you make the right decision, because if not, they have Google. They search the next best dealer. Just to use this example, the one down the street, the next dealer down the street, and they can get the same thing for the same price. So it's more of a service almost than a sell.
Exactly. I think that's a fascinating point, is that, with Google and the internet and the access to all sorts of information, right? As a salesman, you are not their only avenue to gain info on what they're trying to buy. They're coming from a knowledgeable perspective,
right.
So they're going to call you out on your bullshit if you're spewing it.
Right.
So I think with that change in the freedom of information and how easily I can just go online, and if you're trying to sell me a shitty car, I can be like, I know this is a shitty car because everyone's said that.
Right.
So with that, I think the sales process has kind of changed a bit from, hey, buy this. This is like, this is the car, like yada, yada, yada. So, okay, what are your needs? What is your situation? And okay, here's how I think I can help. Like, here's how I can make your life better.
Right.
Right. And
exactly.
I think that's really how you get sales. And you hit on their pain points, and if you can just eliminate those, then it's good to go. Like, for an example, you brought up the landlord, right? How we got him to do that. Well, the reason we got him to do that is I kind of hit on his pain points. I was like, hey, if you fix this place up for us, then we would love to stay, and you won't have to worry about finding 6 new tenants, because that's really hard.
For whatever reason, he can't find tenants, so that is his issue.
Right.
And we know that.
And we just eliminated that for him. I was like, you do this, and we will eliminate your biggest stressor, And that's the connection that made it all work.
Just being the best source of information out there, and knowing the strengths of what you can do, and knowing, the model of what they do, and using that experience to hit on their weaknesses and make up for that with your strengths of what you can do to solve their issues.
Yeah.
So
it's like a puzzle piece, It's like, this is what I can bring to the table. This is what let's make it mesh together.
But a lot of times it's more like a Rubik's Cube, because it's finding the right colors and trying to explain to them, listen, this is something that you do have to, at some points, really sell to them, because, and I'm just talking about, general business, because a lot of times people don't understand the benefits of what you can offer them. If you are, offering a product that is beneficial, but at the same time they really have no idea, and sometimes they don't even know their own issues. So you have to explain to them, you guys are really lacking in this area, and it's not only just giving them the information, it's telling them, these are things that you can improve on, and we can help you out with that. And sometimes it just goes in one ear and out the other, and they have no idea some of the problems that they have.
Yeah, so this is an educational piece to sales too.
It really is like going in there and you feel like a professor with a bunch of students who could care less about what the topic is, and a good salesman will grab attention quickly and then offer whatever kind of information would benefit them, and just hitting on those points that that they could improve on. So
I mean, what's so critical about sales is it truly is the lifeblood of any business.
If you can't sell something,
you don't have a business. You don't have a business. You have
no point of even existing.
Well, I think the point of existing. I don't joke, go kill yourself. But if you don't have sales, then you don't have a business. You just you have a hobby, right? Like that's what you're doing. If you can't sell the trinket you're making or the product, then who gives a shit,
Right.
Like you can have subpar marketing or subpar strategic or, planning or even subpar financial planning or whatever and still be a business, right? Maybe not the best business you could be, maybe a shitty business, but you'll still be in business. If you can't sell anything, you're not in business at all. It is like the basis upon anything else. So, and one of my favorite quotes is, all businessmen are salesmen, right? Anyone who's starting a company, or not even an entrepreneur, but just someone in business, you have to sell people, and anything. It's about communicating. And for those who don't know, I work as a copywriter, so that's writing from a business perspective, advertising, marketing. So I'm fascinated by how to communicate, how to get ideas from my brain into someone else's, right? That process kind of really intrigues me. And sales adds it where it's like, let me get this information to your brain, and also I want you to pay me money for what I'm doing.
I mean, I'm lucky that all that is done for me, the whole, creation of something valuable. And then I just have to show it to them and say, look at my awesome, science project. It can do this.
Right.
And, you have to go through the whole entire process from point A to point Z. I'm just on the front lines. So it's a little bit different. But,
of course.
It's true that, technically everyone's a salesman.
Mm-hmm. Sure, you are in any part of life, and that's kind of what I wanted to talk to you about as well. Is like, for example, you meet brilliant people, right? I've met so many brilliant people that are great at math or engineering, and they are way smarter than me. You know what I mean? Like they do shit, and I'm like, whoa, dude, that's crazy. You are really smart. But at the same time, if you can't communicate that idea or what you're working on and explain that to someone who isn't that knowledgeable, then it doesn't even matter. And I've met people, like, for example, Crowd Solar is by the way, I don't know if I've explained this, but I started a business called Crowd Solar with some people. It's solar finance. But the people we work with, a lot of people in our office building, are like MIT graduates, Harvard graduates that are super smart. They're working on crazy new technologies, right? Like wind turbines and biofuels, you know, but yet they don't have any people skills. And where I see them fail is that they're failing in places like, you know, they can't get any funding, or they can't, you know, get the sales, right? Because they can't communicate how awesome this thing is that they've developed. They have a very hard time.
Right.
You know, and people do business with other people. Like, you have to feel that comfort level, you know, if you're investing in someone. Like, I met this venture capital guy who worked for this firm, and it was a pretty fascinating conversation I had with him, because he was like, honestly, the number one thing we look at above the idea or the product is the team that is doing it.
Right.
Because there's a million great ideas. Everyone has a great fucking idea.
Right.
Or can, you know, there's a lot of cool products that it's really hard to know what's going to be the next big thing. Like, chia pets are huge, you know, like the sham wow, like what makes that so great, and that something else fails. Like, you know, there's a lot of what makes things successful is the people behind it, like having the team,
having the confidence, having the ability to explain,
carry out strategic plans, and to do all that, you need to be able to communicate effectively. You know, so he was like, we don't even consider, like, we consider it, but it's maybe 10%, and they go through this whole psychological evaluation of the team members and the founders, and like their relational aspects, you know, how they work together as a team, their individual strengths, and then they like, okay, this seems like a good team that can actually get shit done. We might fund them. And they'd fund a team that has that with a shitty product over a team that might have a great product, but, you know, the team's got dysfunctional, or, you know, they don't have the qualities they're looking for. Right. I thought that was really fascinating, because it's like they value the human capital more than anything else.
Right. I mean, to dumb it down a little bit, you watch a show like Shark Tank, and one of the I know it's a lot of it is scripted, but I don't
think that show is scripted.
I think there's certain parts that are scripted,
really?
But I think that for the most part, I mean, just how it's produced, but I think for the most part, the ideas and obviously, you know, the people are real.
Yeah.
But I mean, one of the biggest downfalls of anyone's idea is how that person is explaining their business model, is prepared to take that to market, and there's a ton of good ideas that come through, you know, that show. But you see a guy like Mark Cuban go, listen, you've got a great idea, but the way that you are presenting it to me, there's no way I can believe in it.
Exactly.
And I can see this being successful, but I just can't support you on this, because I don't believe in you as a developer of that product. And although you might have come up with a great idea, there's no way I can back you through this process.
But there are idea people, but it's very different from having a great idea and then being able to take an idea or a product to market and capitalize on it and do all that stuff. Like, that's a whole nother thing. There's brilliant people who invented awesome stuff, you know, but business is its own fucking thing.
I mean, it's been happening for hundreds of years. You look at a guy like Newton, Sir Isaac Newton, who most of his ideas, he got the inspiration from another inventor, and that guy was just an absolute boss at taking his idea, making it profitable, and, you know, bringing it to the point where, you know, it was a viable commodity versus you know, one of his contemporaries like you know, Tesla, this guy who's just a genius and created so many different things that are important to us now, who died poor because he didn't have the ability to see the value in what he was creating and to present it in a way where so I watched, I don't know if you watched what was it? It was like Titans of Industry or America or something like that. It was a history show channel. And this is probably how I found out about these guys.
Yeah, it's so interesting because like I watched
It's
that.
gonna be History Channel or
Yeah, and the battle between Tesla and Edison was fascinating, right? AC current versus DC current.
right.
And they both, they were contemporaries coming up and they worked together. And then Edison was like, no, we're doing it this way. And Tesla, they had a rift, right? Like a divide. And then it became massive competitors,
Right.
And who was it that won out? I believe it was.
Well,
we use AC current now, alternating current, which is.
I don't know anything about the science behind that stuff. I'm a salesman.
I don't know shit about light bulbs, but I can sell you a goddamn
Ask
light
the
bulb.
engineers.
Also, light to the sun, motherfucker.
That's what I say when I'm talking to someone and they ask me a technical question. I just say, listen, you're going to talk to some engineers.
Today.
Yeah, we have some IT guys that are explaining the hell out of this thing.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be the person to do that for you.
Yeah.
I know it can do that. I don't know why it does that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, as far as what won out, I mean, I think we can, see by who is the more, distinguishable name in our history. It's the winners write history, and no one knows anything about Tesla, except they're producing cars now.
Well, that
in his name.
Yeah,
Other than that, there's not too much of him in the history books.
Yeah.
He tried to make a big electric coil that shot lightning.
Yeah. So
people know that.
Yeah, Edison was
Look that
promotion of DC current, direct current, whereas Tesla was alternating currents. And I believe what we use today is AC current. Yeah, the lower cost of AC power distribution prevailed. So Tesla's idea was actually the better one, the one we use today. Yeah, everyone associates electricity and whatnot with Edison.
Right, but in reality, who knows who Tesla is, whereas Edison is kind of a hero in our country.
Yeah.
I mean, it goes back to what we were talking about, like who presented their idea better.
Yeah.
Tesla had the better idea. Edison is the guy that we talk about in history class.
And what he did, right, is he had like a publicity campaign that promoted DC over AC, as AC was like dangerous, right? It's an alternating current, and it's much more dangerous. So he promoted all these dangerous aspects of AC currents and things like that.
Just a smear campaign.
On
Tesla.
Yeah. So fascinating stuff back in the day. I mean, imagine how crazy that must have been. When electricity was invented, that shit must have been like magic to people. Like people just have like fires or like oil lamps.
It's still magic to me, dude. Like I don't know why it turns on. Like
it's incredible.
A computer turns on.
It's incredible shit. Like the only difference is between magic and technology is just how far advanced that technology is. Like if you go back in time with an iPhone to like the 1600s, people are gonna be like, dude, you're a god.
That's actually something that Tesla was working on.
Yeah.
And then he died.
A time machine to go back in time.
I think he would have done it.
Time machine would be sweet.
That would be dope.
If you had a time machine, would you go back in time or would you go to the future? If you had a time machine?
I would definitely go back in time.
Yeah?
Yeah. Because I feel like, I'm one of those pessimists that thinks that the future is going to suck. So it would be awesome to go back in time with all this knowledge. And, well, I'm kind of blowing myself up a little bit.
All this knowledge. All this knowledge I have.
But, dude, I mean, look at the Back to the Future series. Marty McFly went in the past and brought that book with all the sports outcomes. And, it didn't turn out too well, but, it could have gone better. And then he went into the future and everyone hated him, So I think it would be way better to go into the past.
So this is something I'm curious. So if you were going back into the past, what would you bring with you? Like, let's say you're going to revolutionary times. What would you bring with you? Because I hear people's like, oh, if I went back in the past, like I'd invent Google.
How many?
And it's like, no, you wouldn't invent Google. Like you don't know how to invent Google.
What are you allowed to bring?
You can bring. That's what I'm saying. You can bring whatever you want. Yeah. But if you bring like an iPhone, it's gonna last you like 4 hours before the battery dies and you have no electricity yet.
That's the thing. How far are we going back?
Revolutionary times. Let's just say before electricity and stuff like that.
So I'd bring a shitload of gas. I would bring a generator. Okay. And the ability to hook up electronics to the generator.
That's a great idea. I'd bring a hand crank generator, right?
You don't want to be cranking all day.
I'm not gonna. Here's what I'm gonna do, right? I'm taking your idea. I'm piggybacking.
Slaves.
Yeah, I would pay them, but if you want to get into slavery, that's acceptable.
Is legal.
So I would bring a generator that hand crank generator generates electricity, a TV, and just all the video games ever. And then I would, in revolutionary times, I would set this shit up and I would just charge people. I'd be like, look, come play this crazy shit. Like, people would come and pay tons and tons of money to play like Halo back in the day. They'd be like, what is this magic? This is crazy.
Back in the day, though, I mean, I don't know if that would work, but back in the day, they would take your Xbox away from you.
Yeah, that's true.
And they would say you're a witch, and they'd hang you in Salem, Massachusetts.
Salem again. The last podcast was saying he's living in Salem. We were talking about witchcraft and stuff like that. Blackbeard's skull is in Salem.
Who's Blackbeard? That's like a pirate.
The pirate. You don't know who Blackbeard is?
No, I know he was a pirate.
Yeah, he's like the most famous pirate ever.
I'm pretty sure there was a smear campaign on Blackbeard too. I don't think he was as bad as they say he was.
What do you mean?
Actually, I'm pretty sure I saw on Reddit that he's actually not that bad of a guy. And I believe everything that's on Reddit.
You should believe everything that's on Reddit. I love Reddit, though. Reddit's a great site. Reddit's like... That's pretty cool.
I don't consider myself that smart, but Reddit definitely at least makes it so that I'm up to date on, the most basic of things.
Yeah, and what's also cool about it is the way comments are, upvoted and downvoted is, that stuff's really interesting to read. You'll see a topic or something, and I'm honestly more interested in, the discussion around that and what people are thinking.
Right.
And I go to Reddit for that stuff. So you'll see, a current event thing, right? And it'll be see what, the world thinks about it.
So you go on a different website, and the comments are like, oh, show me your tits. And then you go on Reddit, and
it's an intelligent discussion.
Actually, people using almost democracy to make it so that the most important stuff.
Quality conversations get voted to the top.
Right.
If you just go show me your tits, it's gonna get downvoted, right?
If it doesn't add value, you're not
you're
not gonna be
and
on top.
That's pretty great about it. I love that. It's like an organic news, conversation.
I'd go back in time and invent Reddit.
There's no way you'd know how to invent Reddit.
That's true, actually.
Yeah. It's like people go back, oh yeah, if I went back, I'd invent Google. It's like, no, you wouldn't, dude. You don't know how to invent Google. Maybe you could find Larry Page and convince him to make it.
That's the thing, though.
Sneak in for some equity, but I don't know how to make Google.
Honestly, I think guys like Benjamin Franklin and those guys in the Revolutionary period who were so goddamn smart, they probably would be more productive in their time period than I would be in their time period. That's how smart they were.
Absolutely.
They were doing stuff with such limited resources that is mind-blowing.
It is.
Ben Franklin invented all this stuff just because it was his hobby.
Yeah, he's curious.
Just bored.
Yeah.
It's just I'm gonna go outside with a kite and see what happens with lightning.
Boom, electricity.
People think it's God shooting electricity down on us. Yeah. I'm gonna prove that there's some kind of rhyme or reason to why lightning is.
That's the beauty of scientific discovery is people are just questioning everything around them, and they're like, no, I don't accept the common wisdom as fact. I'm gonna test shit out and see what the deal is.
And me right now, if I had no access to information whatsoever, and I walked outside, I'd tell you the Earth is flat because to me it looks flat.
Yeah, I mean,
And there was guys so long ago that were like, nah, like based on these crazy physics, I can tell you it's not. It's round.
Yeah. You can totally understand why people were like, dude, you're crazy.
I would have been one of those guys.
Yeah, right?
That
Me
was
too.
like,
Me too,
that was
probably.
like, you are insane. Look at outside. It is clearly flat.
Yeah. I can see it's flat. It's flat. Like if someone was like, no, actually we're living on a big circle, like a big sphere. You'd be like, dude, what are you smoking? Can I get some? You know, like you would think they're crazy. Like you see things today about, you know, like wormhole theory and time travel, and it seems so out there and so nuts, but yet it could totally be true. You know,
I mean, I watch the Discovery Channel all the time, and I have no idea what they're talking about.
yeah. Wormhole theory is crazy. You know, they actually can do time travel. Like it's like a scientifically proven thing. So so this is gonna sound super weird, but it's actually true. Like the closer around you get to a black hole, and if you go around it, like basically what it is if I travel from Earth and go to like a black hole and go around it, the mass is so dense there that it warps time a bit. Like time's different. I'm obviously not a nuclear physicist or whatever. But basically like you can go around a black hole. If you go around it, you orbit it. It'll take you 6 minutes to do it, let's say.
Right.
But yet, back on Earth, 12 minutes have passed.
Right.
So you can do that, come back, and you've only aged, 6 minutes, but people on Earth have aged 12.
So all we have to do is go into a black hole.
Yeah. But they've proven it on Earth with satellites, right? The satellites, they are in a different...
What, like a split second
tiny bit, split second difference, but it proves the theory correct. And that's around Earth, which is a pretty small mass compared to on a universal scale. But you can literally do that. That's traveling to the future, kind of. It's like, yeah, all this time has passed. I'm still kind of the same age, but yet it's 100 years later on Earth. It's crazy shit. That's actually happened. Like you can do that. People don't think you can go back in time because of paradoxes and stuff like that. Like if you go back in time and like the butterfly effect too, it kind of rolls into that. Like if, you go back in time with an iPhone, chances are you might change the course of history,
Dude, I always wonder if when you're going back in time, whether it would be like Terminator or whether it would be like Back to the Future or any other time travel movie.
Well, if you go...
Like, do you think...
If you go back in time as the Terminator, it would be like Terminator.
So, like, in Terminator, they found out that you can't actually change the past because what happened, and no matter what you do, it's just going to change how it happened. But in Back to the Future, like, literally the entire course of existence changes, and what's the scientist guy's name? He explained it on the whiteboard where he said, okay, now we're diverging onto this, alternate reality, this alternate future.
Yeah. I think that makes sense just to me from
we're getting deep right now.
We're getting real deep, man. That's why we have the podcast. It's a casual conversation about actual things. We're getting meta up in here. I need the Inception button. But yeah, man, I mean, that's the stuff I love.
We don't even need to be high to be talking about this.
No, we don't. We should be. But
this is just average, casual.
It's just a casual Friday. A beautiful, beautiful day here in Boston, Friday afternoon. It is beautiful today, man.
So glad I took the day off.
Yeah, I'm glad you did too.
So we could talk about
this
space.
Podcast. We talk about
space. I didn't think that in our first podcast that we would talk about space, time travel, and sales in one podcast.
Yeah, I know. We meant to have you on talk about sales and business and all that stuff, and we'll get back to that. But yeah, man, it's the beauty of the podcast, dude. It just takes you wherever it goes. It's an organic being itself. Right, that's not true, but anyway. So if you let's combine these little topics for a second. If you were going back in time, do you think you'd be able to sell someone that you were from the future?
Well,
A weird question. I know.
That's interesting because you have to take into account a couple different things with that scenario. One, everyone back in the day was dumb as hell. Like people just weren't that smart, and they attributed everything that happened to some sort of, if they couldn't explain it, it was either God's work, some kind of supernatural event, or they just refused to believe that science was involved.
Yep.
So if you came back from the future,
People would think you're a god.
people
probably.
would think that you were a god or some sort of, super, like a ghost or something, or some kind of supernatural being. So it wouldn't be that difficult, I don't think, to actually convince them that you were from the future. It would be difficult to then be like, okay, now, don't kill me because I'm not like
because you guys are terrified of
because you're terrified of what I am.
Yeah.
But, so I think the sale would
That would be the harder sell.
The harder sell would just be like, all right, don't kill me now.
Yeah.
Like, I know you probably believe me that I'm from the future, and I can probably, explain why I am from the future, and why I've come here to this time. But it depends what time period you go back to. I bet if you went back to like ancient Rome, they'd worship you like as a god. They'd make you the next Caesar. Because
you could come and be like, hey, like I'm Zeus, or not Zeus, but Jupiter, right? Be like,
because they believed in like demigods.
Yeah,
like,
you'd probably be a demigod.
as a god that looks like a human.
Yeah,
and so
you go back with like even just like a flashlight, and people would be like, what the fuck?
They'd be like, holy shit!
Yeah.
Like in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, they go back and they come in a fucking a phone booth, and everyone's like, "What the hell is this thing?"
They think you'd have magic. Like what's the difference really between like a flashlight, maybe a flashlight, and like a magic wand even? They'd be like, "What is that magic coming out of it?"
Say,
like if you went back with, let's say, a taser, right? You go back with a taser. How is that any different from like Harry Potter yelling "stupefy"? Like I'm like hitting you with this crazy thing, and you're now.
That would actually be an awesome way to go back into the future, into the past.
Yeah,
is pretend you're Harry Potter, and like everything
yelling
you
shit,
do
stupefy.
is just magic.
Yeah.
One of my favorite, actually, one of the best movies that is so underrated and has a great travel back in time sequence is Army of Darkness, and a lot of people have never seen this
What's
movie.
that?
So actually, a movie called Evil Dead that was a remake that came out recently, which was the prequel to Army of Darkness. Some people have seen Evil Dead. It's kind of like a cult classic. Army of Darkness was a movie where this average dude, goes back in time, and he has a shotgun, and he goes to the medieval period, and all these guys, they take him as a captive. They all have swords and stuff, and he is wielding a shotgun, and he blows this guy away with his shotgun, and they're like, "Oh my god, this guy is like the second coming of God or whatever. Like he is using magic against us."
Yeah.
And I think that's probably the most accurate representation of something that would happen when you go back in time, is that they would just be in awe of
they would
all
think
of
it's
your
magic.
power. They think that
magic.
you are just all power. You could tell them that you have any type of power, like you'd be like, "Oh, like I'm gonna make it rain tonight or something, like literally rain, not like Fat Joe in the club.
Meanwhile, you just check like your iPhone and be like, oh, it's gonna rain tonight. I'm gonna tell these guys I'm making it rain.
Yeah, and they would believe anything that you said.
Yeah, they would.
So you get all the medieval women. You
get a lot of medieval women.
You get all the medieval.
Although, do you really want medieval women?
I don't know.
What were women like back then? Probably sex back then was probably grimy as shit, dude. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, everyone probably
no one shaved. Like people didn't shave back then. I don't think
so.
The women didn't shave either. Yeah.
That's what I don't get is did guys just walk around with huge beards all the time? Like,
Well, I think they had shaving.
You just take your giant broadsword and just scrape it against your face and.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question, man. It's not like Gillette.
Did they have the metal?
They didn't. They just didn't have shaving cream. Like.
Oh man, they must have had such bad razor burn back in the day.
Yeah, just taking a long sword to your buddy's face. Just like, hey, let me shave this off.
Can you imagine that? Like your idea of being extremely clean is like going and jumping in the pond.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, I haven't done this in weeks. I feel so clean.
Yeah. I just go back in time with nothing but a razor, just be clean shaven. Just get all the women, just be like, what's up?
You know what? I revised my previous opinion. I'm not going back into the past.
You're going to the future now?
I'm going to the future now. I have standards.
Well, it depends where you go in the past. Like, I don't have any interest in seeing or living in medieval or dark ages. Like, fuck that. But you take me back to ancient Rome or ancient Egypt. That'd be pretty cool. Like take me to the birth of Jesus. I want to know what actually happened. If I could travel back and then travel there and then travel back, that's probably the number one time I'd be like, okay, I'm gonna get to the bottom of all this religion shit. I'm gonna come back and tell everyone what the deal is. You know what
though? Even if you did that, there's no way anyone would believe you.
Probably not, but at least I would know.
Just this self-assurance that all of your beliefs are...
Yeah, man. What if I go back and everything was true? Like, I walk back and Jesus is just walking on water. He's like, yo, what's up, dude? I'm the son of God. I'd be like, all right, well, I'm going to now be a Christian.
That would be crazy.
Like, that now affirms that, yeah, this is what's up.
That's what I always, wonder is... I'm not very religious, and I don't really believe in, a higher power. But if there actually is a higher power, which one of these groups is doing it right? There's a different belief system, and it's all kind of, they're all similar in some way, but they all have their own way of doing things.
Yeah.
So which one of the group? And South Park actually had a hilarious episode where they said that so everyone went to hell and they were like, oh well, where are all the Mormons? And it turns out that the only people doing it right were the Mormons. Like that is something that I would actually like.
See, I don't think anyone's doing it right or wrong. I think they're all just passed up the same mountain, so to speak. I think everyone. I personally believe that there's something, whether you want to call it like a higher power, or God or whatever. I think there's a connect. I'm into some metaphysical shit, so I'm not gonna explain all of it because I couldn't, nor do I know what
I'm not even sure what metaphysical means.
Okay, well, fair enough. But I think all these people, are like, oh, we believe in this type of God or we believe in this. They all just believe that there's something more. I don't think any of them are right. I think there is, I think there is something unexplained, whether you want to call it a higher power. Maybe. Yeah, it's a power we haven't understood yet, right?
But what if God had a set of rules that he wanted humans...
See, I think that's bullshit. I don't think humans are created in God's image or anything like that. I don't believe in that, personally. I think that's
so
crazy.
Basically there are things that, our current science cannot explain, and it will never explain because there's a reason for it that is beyond our understanding.
Beyond our understanding. Exactly, yeah.
You
get it, man. You kind of, there, boom, metaphysics 101.
Okay,
yeah.
All right. So I just took a class all right.
Like
I'm glad I skipped that class at UMass because that was pretty easy to figure out.
well, I mean that also wasn't metaphysics at all, but
Okay. All right. Well,
but it's on that level of like that whatever that like it's just I think there are things that are we can't understand as humans or yet, like we understand. I read this fascinating book called Biocentrism, and it's about like how we understand the world and the universe is through the lens of our own consciousness, right? Like we only understand things that we can like wrap our brains around, like we've created like these rules, like we understand the world through math and physics, like that's how we explain how things work,
right.
but those are literally creations of the human mind. These are rules and patterns that make sense to us and to our brain, but that doesn't mean that like things can have to follow all those rules, right? Like we think they do because that's how we understand the universe, but that doesn't mean we're necessarily right about everything.
Right.
There are other ways. Like we almost have a lens over our view. Like, oh, this makes sense to us, so that must be how it is. But that might not necessarily be true. And you're seeing it in like a lot of the advanced sciences. They're running out. Like they don't have explanations with physics and math. Like you see things like dark matter, and they're like, well, this doesn't make sense. Like, what does all this extra matter do in the universe? Or they're like, the universe keeps expanding, and it shouldn't expanding at a faster rate than ever. It keeps expanding faster. Right? And like through the laws of physics, that shouldn't be what's happening. It should be slowing down. If there's like a big bang, it starts and things are exploding away really fast, and then towards the end, they lose momentum, so to speak, and it slows down their rate of expansion. Right. But yet things keep going faster and faster in other directions. So there's weird shit out there that's like we don't understand why, and it's like we have to search for where maybe we have to look at other options of how to view things.
I think that we're never going to be able to view things through the lens that we have been given as limited creatures that only have a certain amount of capabilities. But I think that we have the ability to create devices that can go beyond what we are possible of. So I think in the future there will be a point where we have created machines that can create machines.
Well, we already have.
Right. And so it will get to the point where the machines that we've created can actually find out everything about everything.
Like artificial intelligence, like actual stuff. Yeah, I mean that's what they they say a lot of like organic and synthetic life, right? Like advanced, artificial stuff is synthetic life. Is they're eventually gonna meld, and you kind of fucking see it, right? Like you see someone walking around with like a replaced knee, right? It's like, oh yeah, I got like a fake hip. It's like, dude, that's bionic. Like you actually have like, fucking like they have shit now where someone has a robotic arm and they can move it with their mind.
It's crazy.
And it's like, whoa.
That is crazy.
That's some Star Wars shit.
Star Wars, crazy.
All right, we need to talk about this for one second. This is our last topic. We need to talk about this. Dave here has never seen Star Wars.
Okay.
And it blows my mind that you've never seen Star Wars.
Okay. First of all, let's start out by saying I have seen Star Wars, but I've never watched the entire movie from start to finish.
There's also 6 movies.
6 movies, so
you haven't watched one of them.
The crazy thing is, I've actually seen the new version of Star Wars. Like, I saw the episode 1 when it came out in 99 or whatever. I saw that movie, and I had never seen the
so you saw Phantom Menace first?
I saw Phantom Menace was the first one I saw.
So that's going to immediately ruin everything.
Actually, you know what? I was watching them in order.
You were.
Unlike a lot
actually.
Probably most people haven't done that.
That's true. You did watch them.
And then I watched the second one.
Yeah.
And then I watched parts of the first 3.
Yeah.
So I went out of order a little bit. I didn't before I saw the third one.
I see.
And then I saw the third one.
Yeah.
So I've seen the first 3. The first 3 meaning the ones that have come out most recently.
Yeah.
From start to finish.
Yeah.
But the original three, which everyone worships,
Which are good movies.
You know, according to most people.
According to life itself.
Okay, so there's some people that worship Star Wars like it's a god.
No, I mean they're good movies. I mean, I grew up like I was the kid, like I had mad Star Wars action figures. I played all the video games. So you're talking about a big Star Wars nerd, but
Clearly,
you watched like the ones even Star Wars fans are like, oh yeah, these movies suck. Like, and that jaded your opinion. Like if you go back now as an adult and I think watch the original ones in order, you're going to be like, this is actually an amazing story and really interesting, and it's like really cool. And then, from there you can go back and watch the new ones because they're entertaining and they're fun, but you're not going to watch those originally and be like, oh, this is the greatest shit ever. You're going to be like, this is kind of weird. Like, why are they doing this? Like why is he just become Darth Vader? Like, it's not going to make sense unless you have the background of the original.
You know what? I love sci-fi movies, and to me, that's one of the genres that's kind of fallen off the face of the earth.
Yeah.
In recent days, mostly because in order to make a movie like that, it costs an insane amount of money for all the CGI just to keep it relevant. But I don't even view Star Wars as a sci-fi movie. I view it as like a drama, and to me, all of the drama that goes on in Star Wars is just, it's boring to me. To me, Luke Skywalker is a little bitch, first of all. I love Han Solo.
Yeah.
If the movie was based around Han Solo, it would be my favorite sci-fi movie.
He's awesome.
Because he goes around like a badass, just blowing shit up in the part.
Dude, where he kills
part,
the guy in the casino.
Yeah.
Just shoots him on the table. Badass.
Just shoots it. The part where he's about to be frozen in his little cryosphere or whatever the hell that thing is. What's her name? Leia, Princess Leia says, "I love you" to Han Solo. And he says, "I know."
I know.
And that's partially just Harrison Ford being a boss actor. I mean, he's just great. He's a boss.
He's got the charisma to pull off Han Solo. Like he's like good looking, scruffy guy with like
he nailed it. And it's the same. He brought that same exact
swagger to that
swagger to
the character.
He brought that from Han Solo to Indiana Jones, and I love the Indiana Jones movies. Yeah, those are great. Those are great movies. To me, the '80s is the golden age of cinema. But I love Indiana Jones, and there's a couple characters from Star Wars that are great. Definitely not Luke Skywalker. He's a bitch. Darth Vader's even a bitch. I mean, there's at the end when he's laying there and he's like, "Oh, like I made the wrong decision." It's like, be an evil boss or don't be an evil boss. Like, make up your goddamn mind. Like movies that I love are when the villain is a true villain.
Well, the Emperor was the true villain in Star Wars. Like
I understand that, and he wasn't to me. And I don't know enough about Star Wars to really comment enough, but to me, the Emperor should have been more involved with everything that was going on. I think the best characters weren't in the movie enough. I think Jabba the Hutt should have been more in the movie. I think
he's involved a lot in the third one, Return of the Jedi.
The third one. Yeah. I think Boba Fett should have been way more involved. Yeah, he's a badass.
He is a badass.
Han Solo should have been the main character.
Yeah. Well, with the new ones, they're making a Boba Fett movie, which is sweet.
So that is something I can get into.
Yeah.
Because Boba Fett is just
I'm gonna watch
just
it.
He's just an assassin. He's just a badass.
I know. My favorite part, you probably don't know this part, but Vader's interviewing all the bounty hunters to go after Han Solo, and he's giving them their orders, right? And he's like, yeah, do this, and he's like, and I want him alive. And he looks right at Boba Fett. It's like he has to signal out from all this lineup of super badasses that this guy is the most badass. Yeah, and it's like, you're like, yo, I got to keep eyes on that guy. Like, that guy's going to fuck shit up.
Yeah. And he was a great character, and in those movies.
Yeah.
Or which movies was he in?
He's in the. You first see him in the second one, Empire Strikes Back.
Right.
He's part of that one.
So he's not. Yeah, he's not even in the first one.
He's not.
I remember that.
The first one's got a real different vibe than Return of the Jedi and Empire Strikes Back. Like the first one seems like it's almost from a different era of filmmaking. Like it's very like swashbuckling, like adventure style. Like,
right.
I actually don't really love Return of the Hope, the first one that much because it almost feels a little dated to me. Whereas Empire Strikes Back or Return of the Jedi seem like more modern movies, and you get like
they
a
must
lot
have
more
just gotten a much bigger budget.
Oh, they definitely did.
They had. That's probably the case with that.
Yeah, the first one. I mean, the first one. Yeah, you're totally right.
The first one was still a huge Hollywood movie, but after the success of that, they probably were just given unlimited.
I mean, it was
funds.
a cultural like phenomenon.
Yeah,
you know, they were like people saw that movie like 20 times.
I think the thing that Star Wars did right was that it took a genre that, you know, all of a sudden they had all these, you know, new things that they could do with CGI, all these new techniques in filmmaking, and they took a classic, you know, kind of storytelling method, which, you know, has been used for forever, and the way that they told that story, and then they blended that with sci-fi, and that's
really cool.
That's the combination that everyone loves, and I can see why, you know, it is a good movie. Or the three of those movies are good movies. I just can't.
There it is. That's all I want to
do.
Okay,
I'm saying that they are good movies.
Podcast done.
I can't get into it.
All right, fair enough, man. It's not for everyone. Right? It's really not. It's really not for everyone.
I think it is kind of for everyone.
Yeah, I mean,
name a person that doesn't like Star Name a person that doesn't like Star Wars.
You.
Me. I mean, me. But
you're the only one. You're the weirdo, dude.
I was raised on a little bit more gritty movies than Star Wars.
Like what?
I mean, we're talking about Predator. We're talking about RoboCop.
Gritty.
We're talking about
gritty RoboCop.
Anything Arnold Schwarzenegger was in. As I said,
these aren't gritty movies. These
Indiana Jones.
Action movies. That's what you were raised on.
When I was a little kid, those are the first movies I saw, and after that, Star Wars, you know, Luke Skywalker just seemed like kind of a bitch to me.
Yeah,
couldn't get into it.
Fair enough, dude. Fair enough. Yeah. So I was talking about Star Wars with Zenny too on the past one. He loves it, so it's interesting to see the opposite dynamic. The someone who's not the biggest fan, and this is slowly turning into a Star Wars podcast. It seems to me. We keep every guest I have, it keeps coming to that. I don't know if it's me or the guests, or, you know, diversify my interests. But yeah, man, this was a good podcast. You know, we started with sales, ended up in talking about time travel and sci-fi, but yeah, man, I'm glad you decided to do it. It's been fun, and we should do it again sometime.
Let's take over the world with the podcast.
I'm in.
Boom.
And on that, we are out, everyone. We will see you next time.
Peace.